Okay. I'm really excited to be able to speak to you this morning and share something about radio. I mean, radio is a medium that some of you may or may not be aware of all the changes that we've gone through in recent years. When I got into radio, there were like 4 stations in a market, and you picked one of 4 basically as your favorite. Now, there are literally, thousands of ways to provide content and music, as we all know. So what I want to do today is tell you a little bit about, and just take one and pass it down, and wait, that one's mine. Sorry. And then this one. We have 8 radio stations, 5 in Flag, 3 in here in Prescott. And what's interesting about this is the Radio Research Company considers both these towns in the same market, even though we're an hour and a half apart by car, which is tough, and we don't agree with it, but we don't have any choice in that matter. So what I want to do today is tell you about who we are, Great Circle Media, and we are a multimedia marketing company that's driven by radio. Radio is first and foremost, and then we have additional things that I'll get into in here in just a second. But what makes us different is that the fact that we've had to do that. Not all radio companies have done that, and those that haven't will need to in the real near future. If you would, the top 3 pages there are our 3 Prescott radio stations. I stapled my card to the front so that you can see all of the radio stations in our group, but go to the page where it talks about radio delivers for Flagstaff and Prescott. This will give you an overview of what types of clients are important to me and our group and why they're important. So the next page that talks about 92% of everyone in this country listens to radio each week. 92%. So of the 243 million Americans that listen, I don't know what the population of the U.S. is anymore, but probably 325, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so 92% still continues to listen to radio. Now, what's happened with the younger demos, obviously they've gone to other types of things that's important to them. Social media, for example, digital media, web design, logo design, Pandora satellite, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and other content providers as well. So, radio, terrestrial radio, and that just means earth-based radio as opposed to via the internet, we've had to make some changes and do some things. But the great thing about what we do is we build relationships. So in this market, and that's why I wanted to come to Prescott from Phoenix. Phoenix became so homogenized and cookie cutter, every station's the same. And there's really no way to become a relationship builder in a market that big, or even bigger ones in New York, LA, Chicago. So what we're doing, literally, that's why I put together this booklet, is what we at Great Circle Media are doing. Go ahead and turn the page to our radio stations. Reaches every key buying demo with all the formats that we have in 8 radio stations. We reach 86% of teens at 12 to 17, 91% of adults 18-34, and these demos that I'm describing, they're all specific and important. 92% of adults 18-49, 93 that are 25-54, and 92% that are 35 to 64. And so our group, and the reason we have 8 radio stations, is to try to reach all of these demos for a specific reason, so we can get more of the relationships and more of the buys that come out of our 2 markets. Next page. Our radio listeners spend hours listening to radio, 16 hours and 45 minutes listening to radio each week. That seems high. It does to me, but the research is telling us that they do spend 16 hours a week with us. So that's good, and that's interesting. And that's not listening to other types of internet-driven content providers. This is terrestrial radio. So as I continue to go through these, folks, if you'll remember to keep using the filter, that this is what's important to us as a radio group and how we can use this to deliver to clients. Next page, 63% of our listeners are
2 minutes.
that we reach is out-of-home listening, and 36% is home listening. I don't know what the other is, but I guess people live in cars or homeless. Yeah, unfortunately. Next page. Our radio stations reach the working people. 97,000 work full-time and 46.3 work part-time. 58% of all Flagstaff Prescott listeners work full-time or part-time. And so this is just a stat that was interesting to us. Next page, we reach the folks that are driving in their cars. 38% spend 29 minutes or less in these two cities, which I think is probably on the smaller side of that. But the fact that we're reaching people in cars is good. 12% spend more than 30 minutes getting to work every day. Car buyers are important to us. For the dealerships, radio is their favorite medium. I won't have time to cover all of this, but on the next page, and this is something, Kay, I'd like to visit with you on sometime. There are some stats here on home buying and renting, groceries and drugstores, consumers that turn to radio. And let me just mention one last thing here. In the world of lightning speed internet content providers, we've had to go to social media, digital media, and web design. The advantages of our kind of radio, we're local and live. Not all radio stations are. We're local and live because our personalities live here, they work here, and they're connected to the city. Lisa in the mornings, the most popular radio personality in this market on Magic 99.1. Her and her husband own Prescott Glass. They own a bed and breakfast. So she is really entrenched into the market, and consumers love her.
My phone's more polite, Jerry.
I do have a question. A lot of times I drive my own car, I got a satellite, and
Sure.
so I don't listen to radio very often. But when I drive my son's car, which I'm driving today because he's not using it, I listen to your, I think, 90s, the oldies.
Yeah, fun oldies.
Right, and it's a very good station, but what I noticed, you have very few interruptions for commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, I might listen to music for half hour, 40 minutes straight.
Exactly.
So when do you put in your commercials?
That's a great question, and I'm so glad that you think, well, where are the commercials? That's by design. We have two, what we call stop sets, commercial breaks an hour, and we keep them short. There's one at the top of the hour following ABC News, and there's one at the bottom of the hour. So that's one place we're putting commercials. The goal of Fun Oldies is to play as much of that fun music as we can.
You do a fantastic job. I mean, I like it.
Glad you like it.
So I don't miss not having my 50s or 60s on, because you guys play
satellite.
A lot of that.
Yeah. And one other thought on that, this is a brand new radio station. It's 5 months old, 4 months old. And so, you know, it's not known well in the market yet. So we're working on building that up, marketing it, and selling it. So there will be more commercials as we go down the road, but we're not going to load it up like a lot of the big markets do. So.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I was just going to make a comment. When I was with Mountain Artist Guild, I was on that radio station quite often, and they treated me wonderfully, asked very, I guess the word is cogent, questions so that I could answer and articulate what was going on at Mountain Artist Guild. A lot about the May Festival that's coming up on the Mother's Day weekend in the square. And so the radio station was really very powerful in helping us to market that event.
And radio is more dominant and helpful in these smaller markets now than they used to be. So we're happy that we can provide that to Muriel. That's our goal. So, any other questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.